Powerful brands own association with one thing, and the really powerful brands actually own association of one word. The way to build a brand is take away everything that's not differentiating about you, and that is hygiene as compared to how the competitive scenario is, and focus on something that you offer the best and that's relevant for the consumer, and that's something that the competition doesn't claim. Often people ask me what's going to change in future. I think the more important question is what's going to be unchanging in the coming future. This is not going to be liked by everyone, but one of my favorite brands is Indigo. Bringing the brands into a place where they have to be very careful. On one hand, it gives you opportunities of moment marketing. At the same time, brands need to know when to shut up. Simplify, simplify, simplify. As much as possible. Life is very complicated. There are too many things happening. So just simplify. Cut the noise as much as possible.
Hello and welcome to the Wiser with Authors podcast. This is a very special episode because it is the first one for me. This is the first time I am hosting a podcast, and I'm also very excited because of the guest that we have here. He has just authored a book which is probably the most insightful and the most relevant book on brand building that you can expect to read. By the time this video is out, you will have the books in the stores on Amazon. We'll talk more about this as we go forward with the episode. But Gurudev Prasad is with us. Welcome to the podcast,
Hey, thanks,
Gurudev.
man. Thanks. It's not very easy to shake hands with all the arrangement, but thanks. I'm so glad to be here, and absolutely.
Firstly, Gurudev, congratulations on finishing the book. Before I, start peeling off the
Thank
questions
you.
and start asking you about the insights that you have shared in the book and what the book is about, just want to get your thoughts on, what was the experience like, and how are you feeling right now on the idea of your book being released so soon?
Actually, in 2015 I started consulting, and 2025 I've finished a decade of consulting brands and startups. So it's a perfect milestone for me in that sense, right?
Yeah.
Decades work of work, codified and kind of captured in the form of a book. Very, very exciting. I think one of those milestone moments of life, right? Everybody has this thing of wanting to get a book published. So this has been on my bucket list too. So I'm very, very excited. And another coincidence is that I'm looking at this coming out by the month end, and 29 June happens to be my son's birthday.
Wow.
So it's actually I'm really excited about it. Yeah.
Perfect. And we are excited that you decided to do it with Wiser with us. And I can't wait to see how the response to the book is. And even apart from the response, I'm just so happy about the kind of value that you have put out in the book. So we'll get more into it. I want to start right from the beginning. The book is called Building Winning Brands, a common sense approach to brand building. Why this name? And I want you to talk about both the parts, building winning brands and something that I found very interesting. It was the common sense approach.
Couple of things, right? One is that brand building, a lot of times, and marketers, consultants try to make it sound more complicated than it needs to be. It's actually, if you look at it, the guiding principle of brand building is how do you approach challenges, questions, problems with a lens of common sense, right? So that is one of the things that we wanted to accomplish this. In fact, the interesting trivia is that even before I started writing this book, it started out as a newsletter, and we started writing this for ourselves, right? And we were consulting so many brands, we were looking at so many challenges in the brands were facing, trying to come up with solutions, doing a lot of these consumer interactions, groundwork and everything. And we said that can we codify for ourselves some of the learnings along the way? Can we kind of make that the knowledge sitting within the organization? And I started writing a newsletter, and I got a tremendous reception for that. I think within first 6 months we got around 20,000 odd subscribers for that. And the most interesting bit about this is that once I started writing, Suharsh and I actually, both of us are co-authors on this, is that we realized that you get better at some of these things when you start writing them,
Mm.
because you crystallize your thinking
Yeah.
and you poke your thinking from every angle to see what are the kind of possible questions, what are the kind of possible flaws in the, the logic that you're building up, and so on. So more than anything, I think writing has been an amazing process of self discovery, has made us better at at marketeers, made it made us better at looking at these challenges and kind of deeply reflecting. I
Yeah.
think that's one of the skills that we are completely losing, the
Mm.
ability to stay with a problem
Mm.
and reflect on it deeply and forget about matlab, one edition of newsletter used to take me a couple of days to write,
Mm.
and today I see a lot of youngsters, young marketeers. I think it's difficult to hold their attention for a couple of minutes today, right?
Yeah.
Without checking the phone, without looking
Mm.
at that notification, or
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah. So it has been a great journey for us. I think however the book does is going to be a great bonus, but just the process of writing this has been a huge,
Yeah.
learning experience for me.
Great. You touched upon a very interesting part, which is how writing helps you crystallize your thoughts in a much better way and makes you better marketeers. Can you give any example about how, any specific example maybe, or any way how writing kind of helped you uh, deliver better outcomes for your clients?
So few things, right? Like I'll give you an example from the world of marketing.
Hmm.
A lot of times, there's this very like the basic document that every marketer will know. It's called the marketing creative brief that you write for the
Yeah.
agency.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I've seen marketeers kind of bypass that and brief them on the agency or in-person meeting, and not really having a written brief in place. Because the assumption is that brief is a document that you need to put in place to communicate the challenge to your creative partners. I think that's a wrong way to look at it. The creative brief, once you start writing it, more than the agency, it brings clarity to the brand team.
Mm. Yeah.
It's a document that's most useful for you because you construct the problem.
Yeah.
You construct the hypothesis, the problem, the challenge. What does the picture of success look like? Right? You get so much clarity writing, the brief. When you look at from that filter, you will not avoid this whole idea of writing the brief and try to communicate it in a in-person meeting or whatever,
Yeah.
on a phone call. That's one. Second thing is that I'm a consultant, and
Hmm.
we are fairly premium
Yeah.
in terms of by design. We charge a certain fee. We
Yeah.
don't repeat categories, and good work is more work. A lot of work comes through referrals and reputation. So what are the upsides of writing something like a newsletter or any of
Hmm.
the stuff is that people will say, yeah, he writes
Yeah.
sense, he makes sense, but the downsides are huge.
Yeah.
If people really don't like what you've written, if
Hmm.
people think it's too shallow, if people think that this is not worthy of their time,
Yeah.
then the downside is huge. It's like, how will they trust me with the kind of with their brand?
Yeah.
So whenever we were writing these newsletters or blogs or now this book, we take this responsibility very, very seriously, very conscious of the fact that what's the upside, what's the downside, and everything we put out there. So it's almost like putting it out for scrutiny
Yeah.
and someone to kind of read it and have form an opinion about us, our work, our approach. So we've taken it very seriously, and that kind of seriousness and that kind of sincerity trickles down in how we've written this book. Yeah.
That's very evident
Yeah.
in.
I think the second part, I think one part which probably you asked me is that how did this help me, this
Yeah.
whole process? Because for example, we've written on positioning, we've written on some of the dilemmas that new age
Yeah.
brands are facing. On each of these issues or each of these editions or chapters, we spent days together looking at examples from Indian scenario, global scenario. How have brands navigated it? How have some of them have succeeded? How some of them have failed? What are the learnings? Is there an underlying principle that we can pick up
Yeah.
and bring it to our readers? It has just kind of made me much better because it gives you that you know opportunity to look at it from the entire spectrum, like
Yeah.
360 degrees. Yeah.
Excellent. And like I said, it's very evident in the book that has come out, in the content that you have written, because I have read the book at least thrice.
Awesome.
and different chapters at different parts. So I could see what you're saying right now. I could see that coming to life in the book. Uh, so I want to touch upon something which which I want to go back to my MBA days. So about 10 years ago, all the marketing that we were taught were from the Kotler books and the case
Yes.
studies that are famed global case studies
Yeah.
from Harvard and other such universities. So marketing and brand building is in general is an evolving practice, and some people say that classic tenets of marketing may not be the same as may not be as relevant today. So what are your thoughts on that, and how have you drawn that balance between the old and the new in this book?
See, I think more things change, more they stay the same, right? I
Yeah.
think it's most applicable to the world of marketing. If you look at the enduring principles of brand building, the classical tenets like how should you choose your brand name, how should you think about packaging, how should you think about positioning, and things like this, the tonality, personality of the brand, things like this are going to be relevant forever, right? Till the time you're building brands, these are going to be relevant. Though I think what is important is to be cognizant of the fact that there are now new tools in the toolkit of a marketer.
Hmm.
The marketing as a art and a science is also evolving, and there's some interesting parts of it or evolving tools that have come into the consideration. So, and we have covered it under what I call as the new necessities of marketing,
Hmm.
which is we have chapters on personal branding,
Yeah.
we have chapters on influencer marketing, content marketing, moment marketing, so all of that, right?
Hmm.
So these are the new tools,
Hmm.
and they just are tools available to tell your stories in a better way, right? So I think but coming back to the question, I think one of the things that a lot of marketers need to understand is that the enduring tenets of brand building are here to stay,
Yeah.
right? Your ability to tell a convincing story, your ability to own a space in consumers' mind, they're extremely important. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah. So uh, the foundations, the fundamental elements remain the same. The tools change, and you have to understand what those tools today are,
Yeah.
but adapt it to or look at it in the context of the fundamentals too, because
Yes.
ultimately the goals are the same, but the tools
Absolutely.
are different, and you have to use the tools as best as possible with as the times change.
And is even more critical today if you look at the choice abundance, right? The fact that at a swipe of your hand you can look at alternatives, so many brands, crowded marketplaces, then there's quick commerce, so many things
Yeah.
happening, right? There's a lot of cognitive overload on consumer,
Right.
and none of us like to kind of uh, grapple with hard decisions, difficult decisions, making decisions every time.
Yeah.
So brands in that sense are the levers or shortcuts for choices,
Hmm.
right? So when in the age of choice abundance, it's more important for you to kind of create a brand that's distinctive, that stands for something, and that plugs into the mental model of the consumer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to extend that question a bit, you have a full chapter devoted to the unchanging truths of brand building. Can you throw some light on some of these unchanging truths, and if you can share some examples of some new age brands that have adhered to them and tasted success?
So Jeff Bezos, I read one of his interviews somewhere, and one of the journalists asked him that how is you know the future of brand building or whatever he was talking about, the context changing, going to change in next few years, because there's so much disruption and everything is undergoing change. And Jeff said something very interesting, that often people ask me what's going to change in future. I think the more important question is what's going to be unchanging in the coming future, right?
Yeah.
Will there be a time when consumers will not want more variety, cheaper products, better prices, and faster deliveries? There'll never be a time. This is
Yeah.
the unchanging truth about delivery, e-commerce business, right?
Hmm.
Consumers always want better variety. Consumers always want better prices. Consumers are always seeking faster deliveries.
Yeah.
So I think that's the beauty of looking at Unchanging. Everybody is fascinated, overwhelmed, excited by the new shiny object of, and then we are kind of thinking what is going to change. But real solid opportunities lie on what is going to be the unchanging core. That's one.
Yeah.
The other thing about branding is that often people think, which is counterintuitive, but if you were to, distill it down to one philosophy, for me, branding is about subtraction. So as a brand, you have a temptation that I offer this, I also offer this, I also have this, and I want my consumer to know everything about me. And you often are misguided in your belief that if I offer everything, it gives me a moat and it protects me from any other competition.
Yeah.
Whereas the way to build a brand is take away everything that's not differentiating about you, and that is hygiene as compared to how the competitive scenario is, and focus on something that you offer the best and that's relevant for the consumer, and that's something that the competition doesn't claim. I think branding is an art of subtraction. It's not an art of addition.
Yeah.
It's not the temptation that I want to, because the principle is very simple, right? If you try to be everything to everyone, you'll end up being nothing to anyone.
Yeah.
Right? That's as simple as that. And examples, you talk about cars. There is this beautiful quote by Morris Saatchi, from Saatchi and Saatchi, the founder of Saatchi and Saatchi Advertising, the legendary creative outfit. And I'm like, it's not verbatim, but I roughly remember that, and it has stuck with me for so long, that the powerful brands own association with one thing, and the really powerful brands actually own association of one word.
Okay.
Right? And think of a brand like Volvo. I say Volvo, you'll say safety.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So Volvo is equally comfortable, Volvo is equally easy to drive, all of that. But one thing that stands apart about Volvo, and that's one top of mind association for consumers, is safety. Right? Yeah. So that's the power of a brand. Right?
Yeah. Excellent. I'll quote an excerpt from your book. It says, in an age when people are entering into new relationships with a swipe, it is indeed hard to expect loyalty with brands. And yet you have talked about building loyalty in today's times of choice abundance. So how do you explain this contradiction?
I think, as I said, if you look at the cognitive overload in consumers' minds, and there is the amount of information that we are consuming, I think it's unprecedented, right? Absolutely overwhelming. So any brand that's able to stand for something, and that becomes like a shortcut for choice, that becomes like a lever for choice, and you don't have to reevaluate it again and again, I think it's going to win, and that's loyalty, right? When I think of safety, I think of Volvo in cars. When I think of fashion, in spectacles, a category which is otherwise seen as boring, I think of Lenskart.
Yeah.
When I think of clean label packaged food, I'm thinking of Whole Truth. What are these?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
like you cut all the noise, take out all the surround sound, and you stand for something really strong that's relevant for the consumer. And you're not asking of consumer to kind of get into this decision making loop again and again and again, because he's busy and he has too many things on his mind, and brand is just one of the things, right? And that's essentially it.
Yeah, interesting.
And another important aspect is that 3 decades ago, if you were to think of, or maybe 4 decades, when I was a kid, I'm in my 40s now, you used to sit in a room watching that Ramayana and Mahabharata, entire family on the sofa watching TV, and there will be commercial breaks and brands will communicate and capture that mainstream consciousness.
Yeah.
Right? I still remember those ads of Nirma, Pan Pasan, whatever, Pan Parag, all of these ads. But today you can have a two-way conversation with brands.
Yeah.
Today, for many brands, the content that the consumers and critics are creating about the brand is often more than the content the brand itself is creating for itself.
Yeah.
Could you even think that there would be a time when consumers will follow you, when they like you, when they share what you're saying, when they'll criticize you? So one way to look at this is that this is like a big problem because consumers are constantly scrutinizing. The other way to look at it is in a way that it's a huge opportunity because consumers are willing to engage with me. Consumers are willing to have a dialogue with me, have a conversation with me, want to listen to my story, want to see behind the scenes, right? What is happening. So I think it's a great way to build a loyalty, which I don't think 30 years ago you had that kind of liberty.
Yeah, so true. Uh, this is a different question which just popped in my head. So you talked about the different ads that we would see some 30 years ago, 25, 30 years ago. Uh, what has changed? So in the last few years, we haven't seen too many ads which are memorable. Uh, and if you think about classic ads, you think about Cadbury's, you think about that Dhara wala ad, you think about all those ads from the 90s. There were multiple such
Yeah.
ads. What has changed in the last few years that we don't see such memorable ads? Has the quality? I don't think the quality of people has gone down. That does not usually happen. It must have to do with other more mechanical aspects of advertisements. Just want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on this, honestly, right?
Yeah.
This is, but I can kind of guess and think of few things. Just the amount of content that you're consuming today. Right now, at a certain stage in our life, many years ago, many decades ago, ads were the most creative thing that you'll consume.
Hmm.
The 30 seconders, pack the punch, amazing, they used to have these jingles, and there was a lot of frequency at which you watch them multiple exposure. That's why some of those ads are
Yeah.
legendary, right? Today you're not competing just with other ads.
Yeah.
You're competing with digital content,
Hmm.
you're competing with influencer content, you're even competing content with what is happening on Netflix and Amazon. Matlab, there is a panchayat,
Yeah.
there is a patal lok, there is all of this
Yeah.
happening. And not only with Indian content, now you are competing with global content. Today you and I are sitting and watching Panchayat and enjoying it, and we also watch The Office. We also are watching Big Bang Theory, Suits, or whatever, right? So just the quality of content, I think, or the amount of content that we're consuming is just so immense. One of my friends posted this thing on LinkedIn called digital dementia, which is the fact that we are constantly on our phones, spending 5-6 hours on our phones. I think we are finding it difficult to remember a few
Yeah.
things. We are not really, there was a time when I would remember the landline numbers. Now it's very difficult for me to even recollect number of my parents, right, without looking at my phone. So there are few things that are happening. The other thing from a brand's point of view is also that uh, brand teams get often bored of their advertising and communication before the consumers actually get bored.
Okay.
There is this whole urge that every year I want to do something new, right? So if a communication is working and it has still not reached enough number of people and has hit that level of frequency, it's good to kind of reinforce that. So the ads keep changing very often, and the agency relationships are changing very often. Earlier, I remember as a brand manager, we used to work with one creative agency for years together. It was a very sacrosanct relationship. Now, every campaign, there's a new agency. And every agency wants to leave its own mark. On the brand team, the brand managers are changing so fast. The definition of loyalty itself has changed. They want to leave their own mark. So every piece of communication looks different from what it was earlier. So if you look at legendary communication, you look at Fevicol.
Yeah.
मतलब फेविकॉल का मजबूत जोड़ है, टूटेगा नहीं. कितने साल से है, right? That is called fresh consistency. The premise is the same, but every time I'm telling it to you in a way that it is exciting, and it's reinforcing the same message again and again, right? And any legendary communication that you pick up which has really which has withstood the test of time is consistency and creativity. It's a beautiful combination. I reinforce the same message to you, but I reinforce it in interesting storytelling.
That's such a great insight. Just changing track a little bit. You have an entire chapter on personal branding in the book. It's a very talked about term now. A lot of people are building their personal brands. You have also mentioned that everyone is a brand. what is the reason behind this? What are your thoughts on personal branding in general? And earlier it used to be confined to celebrities, but now it has become so mainstream. So what's really happening, and how does it impact consumers? How does it impact individuals?
So I
At a,
teach across
yeah.
colleges, right? And this is one thing that I tell a lot of these MBA students is that your social media feed is going to be seen by your potential employers, and they will form an impression about you basis that, even probably before they meet you. I'm a consultant, and so many people I meet actually reach out to me, and the first point of conversation is, oh, I read what you had written on LinkedIn, or I like that,
Yeah.
I agree with your point of view, or I have a slight disagreement, or whatever, right? So whether you like it or not, your social footprint, or the feed is going to have a bearing on your professional life and even on personal life. I think if someone is looking at a kind of a life partner or
Yeah.
whatever, I'm sure they're also going to, or their parents are going to check your social feed and figure out the
Yeah.
kind of person you are, right? So if it is going to exist, and people will form opinions about you, and those opinions will have real world implications, might as well curate it. Why just let it be, right?
Hmm.
That's the whole idea of personal branding. And I read this beautiful book by, he's also someone I look up to professionally, good friend, Ashish Chopra, called Fast, Cheap and Viral.
Yeah.
Way he had a very interesting way to talk about personal branding, because a lot of people think there's a certain sense of pompousness when you talk about personal branding,
Yeah.
right? Like you are
Blowing your
elevating
own trumpet.
yourself,
Hmm.
putting yourself, that's not true,
Yeah.
putting yourself on pedestal or whatever. So his interpretation was, think of the younger version of you, right? Someone who's just about starting the career, they don't have the experience that I've had of 20 years,
Hmm.
and so many things that we have navigated, so many mistakes we've made, so many things we got right. How can you really help them with all the wisdom that you collected and experience that you collected over the period of time, right? If you think of that as a personal
Hmm.
branding, or the most, like, a simplest definition of personal branding, I think you will be more open to it, and what you share on social media, and the kind of brand that you'll create for yourself,
Hmm.
I think will be much more grounded and meaningful.
Yeah. So it's about personal branding is not about like blowing your own trumpet and saying only talking about your achievements. It's about adding value to other people, whoever you can add value to, and sharing your opinions in a way that shows how you think. That's
Absolutely.
essentially,
See,
yeah,
if I know you, and imagine that every time I meet you, you only talk about your
yeah,
accomplishments, right?
yeah.
Will I really like meeting you again,
Of course
right?
not. Hmm.
So the thing is, it's true for people, it's true for brands, is that imperfections, vulnerabilities are very, very beautiful things,
Yeah.
right? They make you more relatable, not your superpowers.
Hmm.
Your imperfections and vulnerabilities make you more relatable. Oh, he is like me too.
Yeah.
But if he's been able to do it, despite whatever his, circumstances, or, things against him, I can do it. That's the hope that you get, right?
Yeah. So there's an interesting chapter in your book which is called Advantage David, where you have talked about how upcoming and challenger brands enjoy some unique advantages over their more established counterparts. So can you uh, firstly can you throw some light on this, and if you can give some examples of how or which new age brands have done this well?
Yeah. So I think, if you if I want to pick up a fight with someone, I'll not fight on their strengths, I'll fight on their weaknesses, right? Because if I fight on their area of strength, I'm going to lose it.
Yeah.
It's true for people, true for brands, right? So if you look at the big incumbent legacy, kind of companies, they have their own strengths. They have the strength of distribution, they have deep pockets, they have all the money in the world. But there are also advantages of being someone who is a newcomer, who is a new kid on the block, right? The biggest advantage is agility. If today you have to get something passed in a big organization, there are levels of bureaucracy,
Yeah.
whereas you can get things done immediately. You can put things out in the market really fast. That's one. Agility is a very, very important thing, right? I think for a new age brands today, especially if you look at clean food, edibles, all of that, transparency. I don't think big brands can really have that level of transparency, but that
Yeah.
you can kind of display. A lot of brands like Akshay Kalpa, Yoga Bar, Whole Truth, they're really leveraging that,
Yeah.
right? And then how do you make it human? Like the fact that founders become the face of the brand. Of course, it has its positives, it also has its negatives. A classic example of this is Zomato, right? They've been there leading from the front, live tweeting in terms of number of orders dispatched on a New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
So it makes the brand very humane, it makes the brand very personal, and you want to cheer for humans, you want to cheer for the underdogs, right?
Yeah.
So use that position of being an underdog to your advantage. That's
Yeah.
that's my thing. Yeah.
Excellent. Uh, so there's a last section in the book which is called resolving brand dilemmas, and I found this very fascinating and intriguing. So what are some of these dilemmas, and would you say they have become more relevant today than they used to be?
Yeah, I think we're living in interesting times here. It's not very easy to be a marketer today. I think
Yeah.
people have more expectations from a brand than they have from an individual, right? And you look at all these trends of boycott this brand, boycott that brand, whatever. So at the there's so many demands on brands today, like on businesses in general.
Hmm.
There is this whole growing concern on privacy. There's demand to use sustainable, be sustainable in the way
Yeah.
you do your business. There is also an expectation for you to contribute to your society, your country. In a way, consumers expect the brands to play the role of a good citizen,
Yeah.
the ideal citizen, right? And then the interesting paradigm is that of having this ability to have a two-way conversation with your consumers.
Hmm.
The social media and in the instas and Facebook and Twitters and all of that. So I think that is that is bringing the brands into a place where they have to be very careful.
Hmm.
On one hand, it gives you opportunities of moment marketing.
Yeah.
At the same time, brands need to know when to shut up. Like anything that's
Yeah.
trending, you should not like really kind of jump onto it,
Yeah.
unless there is some level of there is some association or some bearing of that on with your brand, right? The other thing is consumers also have the ability to scrutinize the difference between what you say and versus what you do, right?
Hmm.
If you're doing fancy campaigns around environment, around inclusivity, and if it doesn't reflect in your how you run your business, how the culture of the organization is, you will be called out.
Yeah.
Right? So many of these things are happening.
Hmm.
Then another big problem or the thing is the consumers are changing. The role of women, for example, is changing in the society, and
Yeah.
a lot of brands for whom incidentally the target consumer is a woman really don't know how to talk to them,
Hmm.
and they do so many mistakes there. All right, so there's so many of these elements. Or for example, if you're homegrown
Hmm.
and you have this temptation to kind of own this made in India, is that enough? That
Hmm.
just because you're made in India, consume you will get consumer loyalty, or is there more to it? So we looked at a lot of these new age dilemmas that a lot of these brands are facing, and we looked at how these brands have navigated. In some of the cases, we are the ones probably who have advised these brands and try to put in some conceptual frameworks that can
Hmm.
be guiding light for marketers today. Yeah.
Excellent. So you talked about marketing to women, and you also touched upon it in your previous answer. Uh, and in the book, you have also mentioned how, as soon as Women's Day is about to approach, all the brands get into this zone that okay, we have to do something for Women's Day, and in the process, they commit something similar to a branding faux pas.
Absolutely.
Uh, and what's happening, and it's not just obviously restricted to Women's Day, it happens across all such events: Valentine's Day, Independence Day.
Pride month, matlab,
Exactly,
it
everything.
happens to everything. Yeah.
So what are some of these common pitfalls that these brands are falling into? And you can take examples from marketing to women, or you can take other examples. But I see a lot of brands which may have nothing to do with a certain event, but they still decide to communicate something. So what's happening there? Do you think marketers can be a little more intelligent about it?
Yeah, I think if they were intelligent, they would not jump on every trend. I think
Yeah.
they have to be a bit more discerning about it.
Hmm.
Right? As I said, consumers are not stupid. Yeah, they are often smarter than us. Right? And there is so much the information asymmetry that used to exist. That whatever you tell me, it's gospel truth,
Yeah.
or I will take it on face value. That is not. Matlab, we are not living in those times now. So if a brand does a campaign that we are so environmentally friendly and does some fancy hoardings and which are of kind of different shapes and protecting the trees and all, someone will kind of look at you and look at your annual report and talk about how much water are you conserving, how much plastic waste are you generating, and then they'll say whether this campaign was really something you should have done or is just a lip service. Right, and we see it like this is something I'm without naming the brand, I'm recollecting from like just recent examples, right? And I also understand the urge to be honest on the brand's front because it has become a game of attention. Right, how do I get your attention? A consumer who is super busy, who is super distracted, in a world where brands are kind of hyperactive, every brand is trying to grab that attention. So it can be around a cricket match, it can be around a political event, it can be around Women's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day. I don't even know how many days exist, right? So, but brands have to be discerning. Yeah. So when you don't have anything valuable to say, or when you don't have anything authentic to say, I think it's better to keep quiet and shut up. So there's actually a chapter that when should brands speak and when should they shut up.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, so that's essentially. And I'm not an expert on women, but I've had the privilege of talking to so many of them for last 10 years every year because so many brands are kind of trying to understand. And even if you look at the way a lot of marketers think about women, it's very binary. Either she is this person in the family who is nobody is listening to her, and she will have to go by what others are dictating to her in the family, or on the one end of the spectrum she is this perpetual rebel,
Yeah.
right, who everybody around her actually goes by her rhythm. I think that's not the truth. They're two extremes. The reality is somewhere in between. It's more nuanced, more granular. I think very few brands get it. If I were to ask about brands that talk to women and that portray women in advertising, if you can remember some of the most iconic ads where you felt that wow, this was an amazing portrayal of the Indian women, you'll really struggle to figure out.
Yeah, actually, and I mean, it's very correct. I mean, most of the women-centric communication that I've seen and that everyone has seen is they are either being shown as someone who's responsible and someone who's taking care of everything, absorbing all the
Yeah,
pressure from
absolutely.
everybody, or they are on the other extreme, which is being a rebel and doing what I want to do, and then that becomes kind of a branding persona or some kind of
A stereotype in that
statement.
sense.
Yeah, statement that
True,
okay,
true.
if you're not this, then you are this.
Yeah.
So that's not how it happens.
True.
So you have covered several brands in the book, both legacy and new age. Can you tell me three personal favorites of yours when it comes to brands, both legacy brands and new age brands, and why?
Yeah, probably not legacy, but slightly older brands, not the
Established brands,
the
more established ones.
yeah. And this is not going to be liked by everyone, but one of my favorite brands is Indigo.
Okay.
Right. It just the I think it's one of the best positionings in last few decades, which is on time.
Yeah.
Right, tangible, measurable, and for a professional, I think, and I started flying Indigo very early, and I don't generally fly any other airlines. It really kind of is phenomenal. Right? Everything about them. I love the positioning. I love how they've their magazine, the food that they serve, the packaged, the food has some amazing stuff that you can read. They've realized that for 2.5 hours, if you're flying from Bangalore to Delhi, or a captive audience, why does airlines need to be so stiff? Matlab, it's okay for you to kind of smile and
Yeah.
read something funny, right? And that's how their ramps, the announcements where they say that, oh, we've yet again done an Indigo IST, Indigo standard timing landing or whatever. Everything, or the TV company is optimized about on time. And I think I love that kind of consistency. One of my kind of favorite brands. uh, I love you know Haldirams as a brand.
Yeah.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs in food space, F&B space look at a lot of new age brands, global brands. I tell them there's so much that you can learn from Haldiram, right? Just kind of so proudly owning this whole idea of being, proudly Indian.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no ambiguity around that, right? And I love Haldiram.
Right from the name itself.
Name itself,
Haldiram.
right? Yeah, that's it. And then a lot of these brands, yeah. I love Fevicol. I don't use it often, but just the pointed,
Yeah.
think about that. If you're thinking about something that sticks, it's Fevicol. And for doing it year after year after year, and still in such an interesting way, I think it's an amazing power of storytelling. I don't know. I think the agency is Ogilvy. And that also talks about this amazing partnership that the brand custodians have with agency partners, right? And I think it's phenomenal. So these are some of the brands. Yeah. Then I love Maruti. I love, matlab, I just wrote about it that uh, it's still 7 out of 10 top selling cars in India in FY25 are still Maruti cars.
Yeah.
Right. And there was at one point they were struggling with this whole idea that Maruti cannot sell premium,
Yeah.
but now they're doing pretty well with. I took a test drive for Grand Vitara, absolutely loved it. I think they're doing some phenomenal work. In fact, I think when you talk about legacy brands, I want to give a special shout out to Tata and Mahindra, and in the way they have kind of reinvented the whole passenger vehicles division, right? I drive a Mahindra now, right? I would have never imagined that I'll pick it up, and they've made me, who is probably very discerning, cynical, whatever, to completely relook at the cars in a different way. And you look at a Safari, you look at an XUV 700, they're just phenomenal cars. And in the same price bracket, I would have options of driving, buying some international brands, but I think I love these cars. I love what they've done with.
Yeah.
In new age brands, I love Zerodha. Especially the way Nitin and Nikhil have built the personal brands, right?
Yeah.
Authentic, and they're very, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Right. I've had the privilege of working with them, so I know that what you see on screen or what you read in their tweets or their LinkedIn posts, that's exactly how they are, right? So absolute authenticity. I love Lenskart, right? I'm not like it's not that I've wear a lot of Lenskart frames or something, but just the fact that prescription glasses was such a boring thing. It was almost like a chore.
Yeah.
Now to transform that into such an interesting e-commerce kind of shopping experience, it's a phenomenal thing, right? There are of course some global examples who've done it, but Lenskart has done it phenomenally in India. I like Whole Truth. I think the mission of bringing trust to packaged food, I think that's how Shashank, the founder, articulates it. Leading from the front, and storytelling in every touch point, from packaging to the website to the founder's handle. Everything is like just absolutely bang on. So yeah.
Excellent examples, Gurudev. There's one part. There's a chapter on when should brands not do research. So this, even though research is your core work, you have specifically created a chapter on when they should not do it. So can you give us some instances on when you dissuaded a client to not do research, or any similar examples?
Yeah, I think there are two aspects, right? There's of course a chapter on when you should not do research, but there is also a bit of a nuance to it, is that how should you read that research findings, right? Sometimes when we meet brand teams, they're already fixated on an idea. Research is just a way to kind of come back and reassure
Yeah.
them that you're doing absolutely right, just go ahead with it. So if they are looking at research as a means to just get a go ahead, I don't think it's a way to do it, right? Please don't do it. You rather launch it, learn, iterate, whatever, but don't use research as a means to just say that yes, even the research says so, and you're
Thappa
completely
lagana.
sold on it and convinced on it. Sometimes people also want to do research because they want to align their bosses,
Yeah.
the management, right? Research is not your mouthpiece. Research is the voice of the consumer.
Yeah.
I think it's a very expensive and way to align management.
Yeah.
So anyway, you have these preconceived notions, or you want the research to only play out in a certain way. You have very strong hypothesis, and you only want research to validate that. I don't think you should do research. There's also the thing about how to read consumers, consumer feedback in research, right? Uh, you have to just not look at what they're saying. You also have to look at, the unsaid, the expressions, the body language. Sometimes now we do a lot of database research. I also kind of fact check, right? Whether what they're claiming is also actually reflecting in terms of their behavior, and it's very easy to do if you look at their apps, if you look at their transaction history. Ask them to show it and back it with a proof. Sometimes the concepts are so new, they almost sound like science fiction. So the consumer is not even in a position to imagine that. An average consumer is not even in a position to imagine it and kind of give you a valuable feedback. There you have to go with your collective wisdom, right? So there are many cases actually, and we've kind of written a full chapter, as you pointed out, on when the brand should not do research, because it's a waste of time, it's a waste of resources, it's a waste of your bandwidth. Yeah.
Excellent. So there's a question that I missed asking you while we were having this conversation. It popped in my head and then it went away. So we discussed this about how brands are always looking to capture attention at every given opportunity. Like everything, every new event seems to be an opportunity, and they want to be there. So it's basically they want to own the attention economy in some way, which is also connected to moment marketing. So moment marketing is a thing now. I don't think this term existed a few years ago. So what are your thoughts on moment marketing in general? Do you think there is a right way to do it? I know you already spoke about you should not have to say something all the time. There are times when you have to shut up. There are times when you speak up. So when it comes to moment marketing as a whole, what is the right approach to practice it, and any good instances, good examples, bad examples? Zomato does it a lot, but there are also a lot of brands which try to copy Zomato, which are not able to do it the same way and with the same natural effectiveness that Zomato has kind of managed to do.
No, the thing is, I think it's a bit of a misconception that moment marketing is only today's thing, right? One of the OGs of moment marketing in that sense is doing it for decades and in a very like a clear template is Amul.
Yeah, I thought so.
Right? And they don't do 100 things. They do one thing and they only do that thing well. That's one, right? Very interesting that you spoke about Zomato, because I have written a chapter on what can you learn about content marketing from Zomato. See, every brand today, Zomato is almost like that North Star in terms of kind of how they engage with audiences on social media, the tone of voice and so on. But you have to realize that that's not a luxury available to every brand. So there's some brands, by virtue of being in categories that are exciting, they also have amazing ability to engage with you and speak to you in a certain way. Zomato is food. What can be more exciting than food? Netflix is entertainment. Durex is condoms. right? They exist in spaces, of course, and I'm not taking any credit away from that. They're also competitors in each of these categories, but they've not been able to stand out. They've realized that the category gives them such a fertile ground to do some crazy stuff and connect with consumers in an amazing way, and they've been able to leverage that, right? The thing about topical, marketing, moment marketing, or whatever, is that I think for me it's a bit or a big no if brand has nothing to do with it, that event, that domain, and they're just paying a lip service, right? If the brand has some association with it, and brand has shown, kind of in past, in some of the work that they've done, communication that they've done, the association or what they do for that cause, I think it makes perfect sense. All right, that's how it is. Now there's some, and it's very difficult to put this in like a formula or a framework, because for example, India winning a World Cup. Now every brand wants to kind of do something about it.
Yeah.
So it's fine. It's as universal a feeling, right? Everybody in India is feeling great about it. Then it boils down to how creative you are and what's your cut which is different from others. Yeah.
Oh, very interesting. Getting to the last couple of questions, Gurudev. One is, what advice would you give to brand marketers and brand enthusiasts who are probably coming into the industry now, starting off with their careers in marketing? Things are so different. There is the entire talk about AI and the fear about AI automating everything, and naturally it will affect a lot of people. Like you have also pointed out in this conversation, that there will be things that stay constant. Uh, I would so firstly, what advice would you give to these new brand marketers and brand enthusiasts who are getting into this field? And also, I want you to encourage them in a way that there will be things that stay constant, but you have to keep an eye on what is changing, and use those constants to constant items to further their careers also.
Yeah. So the advice is that simplify, simplify, simplify. All right. As much as possible. Life is very complicated. Your life, your consumer's life, generally the world around you, right? There are too many things happening, and so just simplify. Cut the noise as much as possible. If I don't know who is this author, I remember, reading I think Mark Twain or whatever. He wrote a long letter to his someone, and then he signed off the letter saying that, sorry, I'm writing you a long letter because I didn't have the time to write a short one.
Yeah.
Right. So to simplify things is actually a lot of effort, right? So I do the simple exercise, right, with the founders, that explain your business in a way that a 7-year-old can understand. It's very, very difficult. Some questions are so easy, but they're so difficult to answer.
Yeah.
Because in our daily life, we're used to kind of taking the help of jargons, high sounding words, all of that. But when you take away all those crutches and ask them to absolutely tell this to a 7-year-old, knowing that he will have more questions to everything that you say, so simplification, I think simplifying is very, very important in anything that you do, right? The second thing is, I think the two most important things or traits required for anyone in marketing is, the most important trait is curiosity. Curious about what is happening around you, what is happening in the world, what is new, how are things changing. If that new or the chatter is around cryptocurrency, you might as well figure out and do your search on what is cryptocurrency and what are the implications, what are consumers thinking about it, and so on. If it is AI, you will have to kind of do it. There's no and it's a constant journey, right? Because marketing in that sense is studying human beings, consumers, and they are constantly evolving. So your actual education starts after the MBA. unfortunately, a lot of people after they've got all their degrees, and especially in marketing,
Yeah.
they think that I'm done with the studying part. Now I'll मतलब कुछ बना के दिखाऊंगा, कुछ उखाड़ दूंगा, वो होता नहीं है boss. Education actually starts after your MBA, when you really, whatever theory that you studied is put to test in the real world, and you realize how off or how on that is, right? So simplify everything, be curious always. If there is a chatter around something that's happening, if there is a conversation that's picking up steam, as a marketer, it's your responsibility almost to understand it and try to make sense of it, right? The third thing, which is not like a really polite thing to say, but go in with the assumption that your consumers are lazy by nature,
Yeah.
right? And optimize for the laziness. So make it extremely easy for them to discover you, for them to buy you, use you, refer you, recommend you, whatever it is, right? So if you foolproof for their laziness, you'll think very differently. But if you want the consumers to work hard and consumer to put in the effort to reach out to you and do something for you, I think it's very difficult, right? So these are just few things,
Yeah.
And read.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised, and there's nothing to do with marketers, but the just like how little of reading is happening generally, right? All the
So
reading is
true.
happening, all that you're reading is on posts, on LinkedIn posts, and Instagram posts or whatever, reading, watching, and so on. Even if you read just the daily newspaper,
Yeah.
I think now, statistically, you'll be among the top 1% of people who are aware of what is happening around you. So why let go of that opportunity, right?
Yeah.
In the world where everybody is distracted, to be able to, have your attention focused at a problem, to reflect on it deeply, to think about deeply, I think it's a superpower.
Yeah. Absolutely. Interesting that you mentioned reading, because I was just about to ask you if you can suggest any books that brand enthusiasts, brand marketers could read, apart from building winning brands, which will obviously be there, but any books that helped you in your journey and you would highly recommend.
Yeah, not only brand, like generally branding is, or understanding consumers and how you work around it is very multidisciplinary in that
True.
sense, right? I love reading books on consumer insights.
Yeah.
I love reading books on business biographies, of course, on brands and so on, right? There's this recently I read this, like recently in the sense like last few years, some of the branding books that stood out for me. There is this founder of a very interesting consulting outfit called Red Antler in US. I'm forgetting her name, Emily, if I'm not wrong. She wrote this book called Obsessed.
Okay.
Very, very interesting book. She's worked on brands like Allbirds and Casper and so on in US, the whole D2C, stars. There is one more book again, sorry, I think it's called Red Marketing, if I'm not wrong, by someone who used to be the CMO, a combination of CMO, CEO of Yum Foods. Very, very interesting. This is not a bestseller or whatever. But sometimes when you pick up these books, you realize that they're like hidden gems, right? A particular note here is I love reading books by professionals, right? Throughout our entire academic, life, we read books by professors, academicians, and so on. But practicing professionals, when they write books, I think they're very, very useful, right? I like not like branding, but there's this young friend, two-person team. I think they two founders who run this company called The Minimalist. It's a creative agency. They've written a book called The Minimalist Way. I was one of the first people to pick it up. I loved it. Ashish Chopra's Fast, Cheap and Viral. It's a phenomenal book for anyone who's trying to kind of make content. Some of the books, because I have the luxury of knowing what is in pipeline that you're going to be, kind of you're coming out with. Some of those books I'm really looking forward to as well, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So, final question, Gurudev. The book is ready. It is about to get into the stores very soon. What inspired you to write the book? What is the objective of this book in your minds? At what point will you think that, oh, okay, if the book does this, then you will feel satisfied?
So I've been a marketer for 20 years now, yeah, exactly 2 decades. Last decade, I've been consulting brands and, essentially startups and founders and VCs. And we've been really blessed to be at the right place at right time, right? We've worked with so many brands that have challenged the status quo, disrupted the categories. And as a policy, we don't repeat categories. So we also had this, huge advantage in last 10 years of working with 50 odd brands across categories. On an average, every year we speak to 1,000 odd consumers for our work. Our work is very consumer insights and research based. So 10,000 odd consumers in last 10 years. Then I teach across colleges. Suharsh and me, both of us love teaching, and we realize that they're still reading, books and examples of global examples of Nike versus Adidas, Pepsi versus Coke or whatever. But there's some amazing brands that are being built in India on everyday basis. Phenomenal stories and success stories and crashes and so on, right? So we said there should be literature that they should read about brands which are being built in India for Indian audience, and the consumers are very different, right? So that was one of the reasons we started writing a newsletter actually, and that got great traction, amazing feedback, and that led us on this journey, saying that probably we should write it. And also writing for ourselves, because we wanted to be more thorough with some of these concepts. We wanted to also kind of reflect on how these things are evolving, what are the changes that we see happening in these concepts and so on, right? And it has been a great learning experience. Picture of success for me is that of course practicing marketeers and founders benefit from it. We are very selective in the work that we do, but this is our way to kind of give it back to the fraternity, saying that you can buy this book and get an insight into how we think and how we approach our work on brands. But my biggest picture of success is that someone who is in a tier 3, tier 4 MBA college doesn't have access to great faculty, great books, is able to pick this up and kind of reads this and decides to build a career in marketing, branding, or wants to start something of his own, of her own. I think that will be the biggest picture of success for us, right?
Excellent. Gurudev, it was wonderful doing this with you.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.
And I am very excited about the book. I know you are too, and can't wait to see what it does and what impact it creates. I really hope it does what you dream of it to do. And wish you all the success with the book. And of course, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much. I think I should say that if I encourage a lot of professionals that they should attempt writing something, and when I tell them that my entire work with Wiser happened over few phone calls, few Gmeets and WhatsApp text. It has been so seamless. It has been because for busy professionals, right? We are not writing the book to make money. I'm not a professional author, right? So for us, time in that sense is money, right? And some of the established players in this publishing field, I have realized very soon that they are like a very, very bureaucratic, right? And we don't really have the time, energy, bandwidth to really navigate that. And it has been absolute pleasure to work with you, do this, publish a book with you. Super.
Thank you so much, Gurudev. Really appreciate it, and I've had a wonderful experience too. And I hope to continue working with you in different capacities.
Absolutely.
Let's hope once this goes out, we might do another one.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.